welcome to my channel. Today we're going to get knowledge and experiences from Chinese sellers on Amazon. Do you know that almost half of Amazon sellers are based in China? Their experiences and strategies are crucial for anyone looking to thrive on a global e-commerce platform. There's an old Chinese saying, "Know yourself and your enemy, and you rarely lose." So let's see what your competitors are doing. In this episode, the host, Bobo, sits down with a special guest, Agon, a renowned Amazon seller who has achieved remarkable success globally. They dive deep into what it takes to build a cross-border e-commerce business, the challenges Chinese sellers face when scaling internationally, and the strategies that can help sellers succeed on platforms like Amazon. Whether you're just starting out or an experienced seller, there's plenty of valuable advice here for you. So, without further ado, let's jump into this insightful conversation and learn from some of the best in the business.
As for the European market, Germany is definitely ranked first. Germany's overall consumption capacity is definitely the best in Europe. Most sellers have 50,000 or 100,000 yuan in their hands, but their knowledge is very limited, and they can only see some red ocean products. I went to Japan, and I found that Japanese slippers are not distinguished between left and right feet. This is pretty weird. Ewu is too slow now, and therefore sellers have moved all the machines to the United States.
Hello everyone. In our previous podcasts, we talked with Lei Gu from Yuzi Chuhai about some experiences and pitfalls of TikTok cross-border e-commerce. The internet algorithm always pushes the traffic label to those who need to see it. So we attracted another friend who is very experienced in the Amazon field. He is not only a cross-border e-commerce seller, but also an Amazon officially certified instructor. He volunteered to share with you some more stories about cross-border e-commerce related to Amazon. So we invited Agon today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Bobo, for giving me this opportunity. I am one of Bobo's listeners. I listened to last podcast related to TikTok, so I volunteered to talk about Amazon, a major platform in cross-border e-commerce. Let me introduce myself first. I am a cross-border e-commerce seller. Independent websites and Amazon are my main platforms. The categories I am currently selling are kitchen supplies, hardware tools, and auto parts. I also created a channel on platforms such as BeStation and Tushio called Agon Chats about cross-border. Some people call me Chun Hao Nan of cross-border because my hair is relatively long. From around 2015, I started to touch the North American platform ETSY, which is a platform for pure handmade customized products. In 2015, I also opened the Amazon platform, but I didn't do it seriously, because at that time Amazon started to make investment in China, recruiting Chinese corporate sellers and factory sources, etc. This traffic was not actually impressive then. Everyone thought that Amazon was just a platform for selling books, right? How did it suddenly engage in e-commerce? I was relatively unfamiliar with it. By 2016, I found that Amazon's traffic was growing very fast, and gradually realized that this platform was worth investing in. From 2016 till now, Amazon is one of my main platforms. I am actually a trading seller. I don't have a factory or product development line behind me. I look for products, suitable brands or supply chains in the market, or factories to find the products that I am interested in, or some blue ocean markets that are not satisfied, or niche groups in the market. Then I will find relevant supply chains to enter the North American market. Now my main business is North America and Europe is mainly Germany, which is one of my main battlefields. In today's podcast, I will also share with you some of the current status of the cross-border e-commerce industry. But it is not limited to Amazon, because I have a certain understanding of other platforms, and today I will still share with you some experience of stepping on the pitfalls to help some novices or some brands that are preparing to enter the cross-border e-commerce, or factories to give them some understanding of the current situation in this regard.
First, let me ask some basic and macro questions. Anyway, Amazon e-commerce has been around for a few years, and the hottest thing in the past 2 years is TK. What do you think the difference between TK and Amazon? Are there some people who are very good at Amazon who can't do TK? Or are there people who are very good at TK who can't do Amazon well if they don't meet certain characteristics?
This is a very good question, because last time Brother Lei actually talked about some of the current situations of TK, and I agree with it. So TK and Douyin in China are actually the same type of platform. It is actually called interest e-commerce or social e-commerce. Then it is when consumers, for example, see this short video for say about 15 seconds to 30 seconds, quickly decide to place an order, and this leaves consumers no time to react. Amazon is different. The shelf e-commerce platform is a bit like Taobao and JD. It is a user's purpose and intention to search or browse, and it is more of a purposeful category. For example, if I want to buy women's clothing today, I will look for items that suit my style in the women's clothing category this season. But it is not like TK or Douyin where I buy whatever I see. It has a very strong purpose. So this is a very big difference between the two platforms. But Amazon actually has a very high productivity per capita. I also heard Brother Lei last time. What he said about TK was really true. Amazon's productivity per capita is much higher than TK. Because when we are sleeping, it generates orders, when we are eating, it generates orders, and even when I am recording the show now, it also generates orders. All the after-sales, including returns and exchanges and user payments, etc., are all taken care of by Amazon. As sellers, sometimes I don't even see my goods, and I let the factory directly label them and ship them out. Because the factory may help me to do the quality inspection of the product as well as some product-related packaging and other things and put the Amazon FBA label on it and send it directly to the FBA warehouse. Once it arrives at the FBA warehouse, all I have to do is to attract traffic, optimize traffic, protect my copyright, and improve my conversion rate. I don't have to do anything else. So Amazon's productivity per capita is very high. As such, I can manage 2 to 5 stores, which is not a big problem.
Do you need an assistant?
No, it's a bit like Taobao in ancient times. You can understand it this way. So Amazon was very popular in 2018, and there were often rumors that a couple bought a car and a house in Shenzhen after a year or two of hard work. This kind of thing is true, it actually exists. It's just that some people spread it from 1 person to 10, 10 to 100, and the story was made into a miracle. Everyone thought that my husband and I could probably create the next miracle like this. So Amazon was very popular at that time, and it was also because of its high labor productivity ratio that attracted many new sellers to join.
We usually say that once this opportunity is discovered by the Chinese, quickly the competition becomes fierce. Today, one person can still run so many stores?
It depends on the size of your store. If the revenue of your store, for example, is 10 to 20 million US dollars a year, then your workload will be more. Then you may not be able to manage 2 stores or 5 stores. But if your store revenue is 1 million to 5 million US dollars a year, I personally think there is no problem for a person to manage multiple stores, because he actually doesn't have much to do. Many of the products in the current Amazon store are very simple. Many sellers are all doing boutique models. Boutique means that I may have a small number of SKUs, and there may be only 5 to 10 SKUs in a store. I will focus on optimization and make 1 or 2 products popular. So his core energy and his funds will be on 1 or 2 products. Just like, for example, 2 out of 10 products can provide you with profits. This is also the current situation of most traditional industries. For example, a factory has developed 1,000 new SKUs a year. But the ones that can really help him make money, or say the ones with a relatively large volume, are only the 20% of them. So as time goes by, Amazon has developed. In the early days, there were people who did massive SKUs distribution, and of course it took much more manpower time. Well, but now most of the home and even some big sellers are doing the model of fine boutiques, so the products in the store they have to manage are actually relatively few. That's the current situation.
What I heard so far is, to do TK you'll have to keep operating and attract traffic. While for Amazon, it is shelf e-commerce, it automatically brings traffic. So does it mean that it is easier to open an Amazon while doing TK?
No, conversely, it is easier to open an TK while doing Amazon, and it's rare people does TK to open an Amazon store. Because Amazon came first and TikTok came later, most people saw that TK was rising and wanted to try other platforms.
You mentioned earlier that Amazon doesn't seem to need crazy operations, crazy management, and crazy marketing like Chinese online stores, while TK is a more complicated process. So why people prefer open TK while operating Amazon?
Yes, because many Amazon sellers see that TK is very popular, and its categories are also suitable for TK's audience. Then they want to try, for example, some small products like beauty tools and household products that cost about 10 or 20 US dollars, curling irons, hair dryers, etc., so they want to expand a channel because TK is also suitable for such products. On the other hand, sellers like me, I sell auto parts. You should rarely see people selling tires on Douyin, selling the aftermarket of cars, such as spark plugs, right? Generally, they don't sell on Douyin, so its audience determines that some products are suitable and some are not. So when TK became popular, some Amazon sellers did rush in. But later they found that some products were not suitable for them. And TK has a disadvantage. Once your customer order price exceeds $50, I dare not say $30. Once it exceeds a certain range, its conversion rate is very low. Because once it exceeds a certain price, consumers will worry about your quality, the after-sales service. Is there a warranty? Are there any unexpected risks? For example, do all the products on your TK have relevant US certification? I have a question mark on this because the concept of TK is very vague at present, including some appearance patents, including children's CPC certification. It is very strict on Amazon because this is a local company of Amazon, so it has very strict requirements on US laws and regulations, but TK is currently relatively loose, so this is also the reason why some sellers will enter. Maybe they can't sell this product on Amazon. But TK doesn't care, so I will sell it on TK because this kind of product may have a higher return rate. For example, my product is not certified, right? Then I don't need to consider its after-sales problem, so I will sell it. Well, let's talk about the future later, make money first. This part of the sellers consider entering the TK market for this reason. But I personally think that TK is still quite chaotic at present.
Then why do you do kitchen supplies, hardware and auto parts? Is this what you filter out from screening? Or did you do this from the beginning? Or did you also do snacks, all kinds of things, and finally the remaining few?
There are some framework when selecting products. I like to select the product with high repurchase rates. That is to say, after buying this product, maybe half a year later that the customer will buy it again. Then, in the consumer environment of the North American market, it has a very interesting consumer habit. Let me share with you, for example, like mattresses. How often do we Chinese change mattresses? In my impression, my parents seem to have never changed their mattresses in their lives. When they got married, that bed is still in use, right? But in North America, their mattresses are replaced every 3 years on average. They will consider the ergonomics of the mattress. After 3 years, its springs may not be supportive. There are bacteria in the mattress. It is no longer uncomfortable to sleep on it, and so on. These are called products with relatively high repurchase rates. If I am engaged in auto parts, which is in the aftermarket of automobiles, then I will consider which products in auto parts have a high repurchase rate. Auto parts is a category with a very large market capacity in North America. It's well known. So if you are engaged in this large capacity, you should find products with high repurchase rates. For this kind of products, my secondary customer acquisition cost will be very low, which is one of the reasons for my product selection. For kitchen products, it is also kitchen products. Its market volume is huge, and it does not have a clear distinction between races. Because everyone knows that the United States is a multi-ethnic country, its races are divided into white, black, and yellow according to skin color, right? There are many types according to religion, many types according to region, and many types according to language. So if you are in the clothing business, you will encounter a problem with the return rate. I have stepped on the pit before in clothing. I make sports bras, which is very embarrassing. Then the size of your black and white people may be different. The size of white and Asian people is different. Then you put it on the platform to sell. You can't say that your sports bra is specifically for a certain group of people, and you can't describe it like this. So the return rate is very high. You are not sure what kind of body size and breast shape the person who buys your product is. So in this case, I generally won't touch this type of product because I have stepped on the pit before, but for this kitchen product, it is nothing more than a difference in cooking habits. In the most likely case, the kitchen appliances he uses, including household appliances such as dishwashers, are basically the same for people all over the world. Or for example, knives, everyone uses the same and there won't be much difference. So choosing this type of product is also to adapt to a wider range of people, and it will not produce differences in usage habits between races. So I considered doing this category. So I have my own reasons and reasons behind choosing these categories, or the result of summarizing my experience. But I didn't do these categories on a whim, nor did I do them for a short time. I actually have been doing these categories for about 5 years, which can be considered as a long period of accumulation. This is a general situation.
So there are some categories you have also done some, and then you could not continue to do them. At least they are not suitable for you, right?
Yes, like sports bras, I lost a lot of money. This case is quite interesting. At that time, there were some Tmall sellers around me, and they were all very financially strong. These Tmall sellers are good friends of mine offline. They think that e-commerce is a good thing. They have a colleague who sells on Amazon, makes 400 to 500 million a year. They are jealous, so they find me. They said, why don't we do it together? We have products, supply chain, and funds, right? Let's make a product a bestseller and put it the first place. But the reality hits us in the face. Just like the problem I just mentioned, we ignored the issue of race. Different races have different bust sizes, cup sizes, or sports types. For example, sports bras are categorized according to mild and moderate exercise intensity. In different sports scenarios, the requirements for breast support are different. Add race, breast shape, and it's really a mess. So this product failed at once. After the failure, the matter was left unresolved. So this Chinese seller is a newbie who doesn't understand the overseas market. Usually he thinks that people in US are all the same. But in fact, it's not, right? In fact, the growth rate of black population in the United States is growing very fast. There are also Indians and there are Chinese, right? There are also white people, Hispanics, non-Hispanics.
And Germans?
Yes. So its ethnic structure is very complex. So to do well in the North American market, product selection is really important, and this aspect must be considered.
So in the United States, I see that all advertisements must have people of all colors on the pictures.
Yes. Sellers are very afraid of this topic. If a product involves this topic, this is a taboo red line that cannot be touched. Once it is touched, it will be very serious. Especially when making products, you can't say that this thing is specially made for white people, then you will kill your store directly.
Yes, words like specially customized for Chinese babies cannot be said.
This is definitely not allowed.
So what should be the best partner ideally? A white man married a black wife, then adopted an Asian child, and also raised a very rare race little animal.
Yes, so at least in the United States or Europe, they don't dare to discuss this topic easily. Once you hear it, there is also a group called LGBTQ. And topics like this are actually risky to discuss, that is, LGBTQ, he is a very large audience group in North America. Moreover, this audience group needs to improve their product line, which is actually very niche, and this group of people has high consumption. Chinese sellers have little knowledge of this group, so you have not heard their voices, and you don't know how to study their products in this direction, especially the adult toys. There are many factories and supply chains that make adult toys in China. They have been talking about how to iterate and update the products, and how to cater to the consumer market. I told them, I asked, do you know the LGBTQ group? And he asked what it is. I have never heard of this. So I said, if you don't know, you will definitely not be able to do this category well, right? If you want to do this category well, you must have a certain understanding of each audience group with their preferences and different orientations, right? You have to have a certain understanding.
I was in Poland once, and I also encountered their big rainbow parade, which was like a super big party.
Yes, I have always paid attention to this group. I don't know if I can say that I often go to P-Station to look at big data. There are big data reports on P-Station which are very interesting. It has them every year. So every year I read it, and it will talk about different groups, what kind of action movies they like to watch, why there are more males than females, and how long the average viewing time is. That big data report is really interesting. So I asked those factory owners who make adult toys. I said, you haven't seen this thing? He said he hasn't seen it. Then I said, how can you make a good product, right? You don't really study your consumer group and his preferences. How can you make this product well? So domestic adult toys are very homogeneous. Because sometimes there are some movie games, right? In a certain year, at a certain time, it will be hot. If you want to take advantage of the popularity, you can make themes in this area or dolls or some props so you can seize the market opportunity.
Like Avatar.
This is really true. Especially Star Wars is very popular. Star Wars is a perennial theme. And Super Mario is the red and white machine we played when we were young.
Such a pure cartoon. Can it be associated with this?
Well, anyway, I think this topic may not be discussed too deeply in the podcast. If you can broadcast it, do it. If you can't broadcast it, just cut this part out. Anyway, the data in it is quite interesting.
Let's return to the topic. The scale just now can still be broadcast. It may not be broadcast further. You mentioned earlier that you do business in the United States and Germany, because I used to think that Western European countries in the EU are similar. But why do you only do business only in Germany?
The data in Germany is very good. In the European market, Germany must be ranked first. Germany's overall consumption capacity is definitely the best in Europe. Its acceptance and traffic of Amazon are also currently ranked first, plus Germany has a high demand for product quality. Then you can sell high quality and high unit price, and at the same time you can increase the volume. So the German market is basically the first stop in Europe, and some people will do other European countries. For example, other countries such as England, Germany, Italy, France, and Spain are mainly general, but mostly the sellers are Chinese people living in those places. For example, if you do business in Spain or France, there may be some local Chinese people, they have some language advantages, or he knows the needs of users in the local area better, so these people will go to the market of such countries. But if you are a Chinese seller like me, among Europe countries, Germany is definitely the first choice.
I also have some customers who also choose Germany for their electronic products. It seems that the price there is even higher than that in China, and it is quite acceptable there.
It mainly depends on the quality of your product. If your product quality is good, then you are completely confident and sure to enter the German market. Because as far as I know, some small home appliances in Shund, Foshan, Guangdong are actually exported to Germany. That is, their quality and quality control can meet the standards of the destination country. In fact, when they go overseas to build European sites, they will also include Germany as their first destination country.
What about France? French people love to spend money the most.
The traffic in France will be relatively weak. The consumption structure of France is somewhat different from that of Germany. In France, for example, perfumes, bags, and clothing are selling better. Is it because of the inherent impression of consumers or because there are more tourists there? So the hot-selling categories of the two destination countries are somewhat different. This is my personal feeling.
But my understanding is that if you are doing e-commerce, you should not expect a tourist stay in France to buy e-commerce. Customers should be a local resident.
There are actually some data reports. I can only say this based on my feeling, which is definitely not accurate. But some data reports will mention that in the Amazon market in France, it attracts millions of tourists to buy things every month. Why do I buy like this? I don't quite understand. The monthly visitor volume in France is about 200 million visitors. Germany is about 500 million, so it is about 2.5 times different. Such a range. The products sold on it tend to be fashionable shoes. I can't say whether it is related to tourists. I just say that some data reports did make such analysis. So just take it as a reference.
At present, what are the brands of Chinese companies that are doing well on Amazon?
I remember that you mentioned Deli in a podcast last time. They are actually doing well on Amazon, which is definitely not comparable to domestic ones. But on Amazon North America, some products like staplers have monthly sales of several thousand orders, and some categories are often ranked first in the bestseller position. So Deli is a more representative office supplies brand that is going overseas, which is relatively successful. There are also some that you may not have heard of. For example, welding machines are very niche, right? The welding machine brand is sold overseas on Amazon for a year. For example, they claim that they have a volume of 500 million a year. I know they are doing very well, so their entire entry point is from the DIY handicraft field. Because in North America, for example, if you want to weld a garden fence, a dog cage, or some other metal objects, we need to use a welding machine. But the traditional concept of welding machines is that it is a very professional tool, it is very expensive, and requires professional training. This brand is called Yes Welder. The store bosses are in Wenzhou. They are 5 partners. They co-founded this brand. And what they do is, the target group is those amateurs and some female consumer groups. In our inherent thinking, women should not touch this kind of tool. So they break into the female group, educates this market, and lets them share some of their works, and then creates some emotional value or some marketing methods of emotional communication. Let them write their own stories, share them on various social platforms and their official website. Then through this kind of social marketing, that is, the spread of users in the North American market is very strong. That is to say, everyone thinks that this is something that amateurs can get started with, and every girl can complete such a work. Then I am in 6 feet man, right? Why can't I do one? So he actually has a certain amount of marketing communication in the market. This is a very typical case. But from my understanding of them, they are not actually for B2C to make a profit from a single order. They really promoted this brand this time, and the real benefit is in their B2B customer acquisition. Because their brand has influence, some other countries or some offline stores will take the initiative to find them to purchase products. Because their products have been tested by the market, the comments are definitely not to mention, the rating is very high. In addition, with a good reputation, the conversion rate is very good. So his channel expansion in offline stores is also very smooth, including some other countries also purchasing from him. Originally, they needed to take the initiative to find customers, but now customers come to them. Then they have a huge benefit. Many people think that they make money by branding overseas B2C, but in fact, what they ultimately do is brand influence or take B2B orders. There is also a brand called Rock Brothers. As for Rock Brothers, they make cycling equipment. You may not have heard much about this brand because the cycling market in China is actually relatively small, but in North America and Europe, and because of the mask problem in recent years, the market trend has been growing. As for Rock Brothers, their annual revenue is about 1.2 billion yuan. So this is a brand that is not easy to appear in everyone's vision. But he has always been the #1 on Amazon in North America. He has some cycling bags and cushions and some cycling equipment which sell very well on Amazon, and he even has some independent sites. They have branches in the United States, Germany, Australia, and Japan, and he has 4 or 5 sub-brands, so this is also a very classic case of a brand going overseas. There is another one that I believe everyone should have heard of in China, such as Pop Mart Blind Box, right? There is actually a store offline. As for Pop Mart, he is doing very well in the overseas market, and he is actually doing very well in China. In 2023, it seems that he has made a revenue of about 6 billion yuan, with a growth rate of about 30%. The overseas revenue is about 1 billion yuan, and the growth rate is about 130%, which is doubled. So in terms of the overseas market, it is expected to reach about 2 billion yuan in 2024, and will double again. This is a case of a Chinese trendy toy brand going overseas. This kind of people are the kind who make a fortune quietly, and you can't understand what he is doing. In fact, if you check his data, you will find that in the overseas market, its price is high, the conversion rate is good, and the growth rate is very fast. So these companies are also relatively low-key, and they will not come out to say how successful my brand is in going overseas. Only some people in our industry will know that there are these brands, but there are many similar ones, such as these domestic brands that are relatively.
So what do you think about 2024 now? And everyone is talking about going overseas this year. Even in my podcast, I am interviewing people who are entering the overseas market. Do you think there is still a chance to enter the market this year?
I think it is never too late. You should think clearly about what you want to do. From the perspective of the entire industry environment, 2017 and 2018 were the time to pick up money. As long as you have hands, you can pick it up. It is indeed like this. But after the mask incident, after 2020, the entire environment has actually changed a lot. The competition is indeed fierce. There are more sellers entering the market, and powerful factories have also entered. So most sellers are compete on prices. So at this stage, if you don't think clearly about what you sell, and if you don't know what competitive advantages you have before entering the market, then don't come. This is no longer a time when you can pick up money just by bending down. There are many new sellers coming in. Some of them sent me the selected products. After taking a look, I immediately found those products will at most have a success rate of 5% to 10%, and those sellers are simply cannon fodder. For newcomers, it mainly depends on their own budget and their own advantages. I will divide it into several points. You are very sensitive to internet traffic, that is, you have the means and methods to obtain traffic, and your customer acquisition cost is lower than that of your competitors. Well, then you can sell whatever products are easy to sell because your customer acquisition cost is low and you have a competitive advantage. The second is that you have the ability to select products, and you can dig into the needs of some potential users in the market. We can also think of it as a niche market which meets the needs of a small group of people. It is easier to succeed by making some products or iterative updates to enter this market. The third is that you have a strong supply chain behind you. For example, can I sell power banks now? Yes, no problem. But my power banks may have a unique innovation in their appearance design. For example, I recently saw a company called Power Planet. I don't know if you have heard of it. This company sells about 8,000 to 9,000 orders a month on Taobao. He made the power bank into a robot shape. So whether power banks is very popular or not, it must be very popular. Do you have design ability? In fact, there is still a market. So if you go back to the starting point, if you want to enter, think about it, what advantages do you have? If you can bring these advantages to the table and make sense, then you can do it. Power Planet is actually a very good example. In fact, there is an opportunity. It depends on whether you have advantages to show. If you have the ability to design products and have innovative elements of products, which are unique in this market, then you can actually fight for your own market share in this red ocean track. So whether it is 2024 or 2025, the key is to see whether you have some core competitive advantages. If you have, it is not too late. If not, I suggest you wait and see. That is, you should think clearly about what core competitive advantages you have before entering this market.
So are there any now? Because some of my friends are engaged in this kind of cross-border e-commerce, they told me that they're doing platform like Temu. They still didn't make money, and it became a price war again. Reason is that Chinese people compete on this. I go to Shine. I also looked at Temu, AliExpress, and so on. Temu specifically, I think what is going on there is not much different from Pinduoduo in China.
The slogan of Temu is Team Up, Price Down, and it is cheaper to buy together. This is its promotional slogan in North America. The price on it is indeed unbelievably low. It relies on subsidies. This is its set of tactics in China. It is indeed very popular in the North American market at present, because price is always the king. For the same products and the same parameters, low price always dominates. But Temu has a con is that it is not very friendly to sellers. For example, I am a seller in Chuanzhou and I make shoes. My supply price for Temu is 45 yuan. If you are a seller in Hunan, you also supply shoes and your price is 25 yuan. At this time, my sales may drop drastically or wiped out completely, because priority will be given to you. Reason behind is that you provide the same product with the lowest price. It will cause me a huge problem, that is, my cost, I won't be able to lower it further based on my supply chain. Well, I don't know how you reduce your costs, but since I can't reduce them, I will face a huge loss to dispose of my inventory. What should I do with the coming inventory? You may ask why there's coming inventory. For example, I am selling very well with 500 orders and 1,000 orders a day. This is a normal situation for Temu. The obvious next step is to increase production investment and increase the inventory. Then suddenly one day the Temu tells you that, hey, he have chosen another supplier because of the price. Therefore, your coming inventory is also disposed at a loss. What should I do then? I don't even have time to react, and Temu don't care. You will be eliminated by the market. So this is a big con to some sellers. Temu won't compare the quality. I think there must be some quality differences between 45 yuan and 25 yuan. But Temu's helper only looks at the price and appearance. As long as the appearance is similar, he will choose the lower price. So this is not good. There is also a product of Temu, which actually has a lot of infringement elements in it. I am neutral about it. I personally think that this is no good. There are many Disney elements in some products. If you search for Disney, you will get a lot of Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse, and then they sell for $6, $7. Do you think a product with Disney image of $6, $7 is officially authorized? I personally think it should not be. So does the platform know that somebody is currently doing it in this way? I think the platform knows. Why does the platform let them do it? Because there is traffic, because this kind of low price of goods can bring a large number of user groups, conversion rates, traffic, and GMV to the platform. So this is also one of the reasons why I don't like to do Temu. I think it's not very rule-abiding. Because I have been working on the North American platform for a long time. At the beginning, I didn't say that I was so morally noble. It was just that I was slowly influenced by their culture and platform rules, and gradually got used to them, then I would be particularly concerned about this aspect. When making any product, we will try our best to avoid infringement, copyright, certification, and safety issues, especially for children's products. If we make children's products or kitchen products, we should get certification if necessary to prevent some unaccessible losses in the future. I used to sell mobile power banks for car starters, which have a relatively large instantaneous current. It is used in winter when cars are not easy to start. Well, this product sells very well in North America every winter. I actually sold this back then, and it sold very well at the beginning with a good profit margin. It was a hot item in winter, and when sales grew, we ordered a large batch of goods. After the large batch of goods came in, things started to go wrong. It's a bit like when you do this show. Generally, when you are happy, accidents are about to happen.
If nothing goes wrong, everything will go wrong.
Yes, at that time, a power cord melted on the North American site. It was a safety accident, so it's complained. Amazon takes safety accidents very seriously. In the early days, Amazon did not force sellers to provide product certification, so we can actually sell it on the shelves. Since accident happened, Amazon asked, "Do you have certification or insurance?" Well, we didn't have them. Then all my products, funds and stores were frozen. Even worse, problems happened in Japan also, because all the products in this batch had problems. We had problems in the US, Japan, and Canada, and the situation in Japan is most serious. Japan customer took a photo, and the photo showed that everything inside the hood of the car was burned black. Then we were asked to compensate about 400,000 or 500,000 renminbi to cover various losses. They also asked me to provide this product certification, insurance, etc. Then I have nothing, and the account, funds, inventories are frozen. The loss was huge, which taught me a profound lesson. Usually you may think that it's okay selling those products, but once something happens, it's a big deal, and this big deal may cause a company to collapse fatally all of a sudden, and it may not be able to get up again. So after that, I am very careful about this. So let's get back to the Temu thing. The products on it are so cheap now, especially some children's products. Then I doubt if he dares to say that those products have CVC certification. I didn't see it in the product description. If there is, there should be a clear mark. It's okay if they do provide the certification, but such low price is there, making me question it. By the way, this is my personal opinion, which is not necessarily correct. They could manage to provide certification with low price, right? It's just beyond my cognition. So I can only say my own personal opinion, thinking that this may not be certified. If that's true, this will not last long, and there will be problems in the future.
I understand that it is a matter of whether you want to do long-term or short-term. Some sellers may be able to make a fortune in the short term, but as long as you continue doing like this, you may burst your position, just like stock speculation.
For the some Chinese folks, my following comments may cause some discomfort. The current domestic market is that bad money drives out good money, including our catering industry. Crayfish are sold so cheaply, but they are short in weight. This is no longer a secret. There are also some frozen shrimps that are already dead when processing. This is also a well-known thing in the industry, including the news we saw last time that kerosene trucks were used to transport cooking oil. Why did the transport company do this? Because if he didn't do this, he couldn't bear the cost. His freight price was so low, so he didn't make much money himself. Well, if he spent 800 yuan to wash a jar, that's equivalent to a loss. So now it is a situation where bad money drives out good money. If you look at it the other way around, Temu is very similar to this situation. Anyway, to some sellers, no matter what, sell first. What will happen in the future, they don't know, they will talk about it later. This is the way some Chinese play. If you are in the United States or in other developed country, this will cause problems and cost us the reputation of made in China. So I am personally quite against this.
For example, I am doing self-media. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I was only one person at the beginning, just like you opened Amazon in the early days. I can open several accounts by myself, iterate step by step, then add people, and add more people along the years. The other example, I've opened a milk tea shop by myself in the old days. I was able to manage a dozen stores by only a few people along the way, though I closed all of them later. I feel nowadays, it is very difficult to start a business by one person. Whether you are opening a milk tea store or a catering company, it is hard to say that you can do it alone. We may need dozens of people to initiate any kind of business. So what I want to ask is, what do you think is the most basic personnel configuration of Amazon now?
Considering personnel configuration, capability of product research can divide your question into several situations. Say now, I have only 1 or 2 people, and I want to engage in cross-border e-commerce now. At this time, I may not have much money in my pocket, maybe only about 50,000 to 100,000 renminbi. Then I have to think about how to spend 50,000 or 100,000 renminbi, and what products should I choose. In fact, there are a lot of niche products in the North American market which are blue oceans. They are very unpopular and niche. But if you don't have enough knowledge or experience, you may not be able to choose or see such products. Let me give you an example. We all know that North America and Europe pay much attention to environment protection, right? Talking about environment protection, we can think of renewable materials and what can be made out of these materials. You may think of making garbage bags from them. The truth is, there are many other things besides garbage bags from renewable materials. For example, tampons. Most people may not have thought about tampons. Aren't they all disposable? But in fact, in North America, some brands will use pure cotton, which can be washed repeatedly for at least 30 times. Then the price of a set is about $30 to $50. The profit margin is actually very good. Well, in this example, you need to know whether you can make this thing. You may not be able to find the source of goods in China, so you have to solve this problem first. Then the second question is, if you find the source of goods, how to promote and advertise your product. Now, if we look at it from a human perspective, for me, I can find this thing and I also find the source of goods. Therefore, I can do it alone. I can do it with 50,000 or 100,000 yuan. The current situation is that most sellers have 50,000 or 100,000 yuan, but his knowledge/experience is quite limited, so he only sees some red ocean products, so he can't do this. So this is one situation with limited people. There is another situation that belongs to some large factories, and they want to go overseas with their brands. Then they need to form a team. The team must have an operations director, operations personnel, art designers, quality control, delivery, and so on. And they need to build some independent social sites. If such a team is configured, it will take about 10 to 20 people. They can begin an operation of the omnichannel, not just Amazon. It could be independent sites, Amazon, and other e-commerce platforms such as Walmart, and they may also do social networking such as YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and other social platforms. Then the factories will need different talents who has corresponding job knowledges. So to summarize these two situations, one is a new seller who has little money and is alone. Then you need to have enough knowledge/experience. The second situation is that you have everything, then ask professional talents to form a team. A dozen or 20 people can build a relatively complete team to create a brand.
To sum up, when a person actually relies on himself only, then don't always think about doing it in the way of a factory/company with all resources. You need to have a unique vision and keen insight to find a specific niche business. On the other hand, if you already have everything you need, simply build a team to compete in the market.
Right.
This reminds me of a friend of mine who went to school in the United States for a few years before he discovered a need in market. Because people in some inland states are traditional Christian, so he gets those pillows and various Bible peripherals from Yiwu. A pillow can be made, with all the costs are added up to only 5 yuan. Send this product to the United States, it can be sold for $50 since it's a Bible peripheral. And this is still competitive price, since if making this thing by the local supply chain, its cost could already be 30 or 40, you have to sell for 70 or 80 to make a profit.
Of course, this is the research on the category. In fact, I have also studied this category. They are not only pillows, but also some utensils used by pastors and the cushions on the counters. I have studied them.
I also heard some automatic prayer wheels.
Yes, and there is another case about this. We know that pets in North America are a huge market. Then traditional sellers come. Remember the early scenario I described? A novice seller with 1 or 2 people has 100,000 yuan in their pockets. Then if they want to enter the pet category, he will most likely choose pet toys and clothes, which are stuff we can see in daily life. But in fact, if they want to win this game, they can't choose this kind of product. In some of my videos, I cited some cases like pet funeral industry, After my video, I heard that there came a cremation service for pets in Hangzhou. But before I talked about this idea, this already exists in the United States and Europe, but not in China. What can the pet funeral industry do? We can't do cremation. We make its urns. You can make all kinds of wooden or ceramic urns, or commemorative ones. This is called a memory gift, a single item with emotional value. They are very popular in North America. For example, make a sculpture or painting for a dog or print it on some clothes, etc., to recall the whole process of its growth from childhood to death. When we have a pet, we would think about buying toys for the pet. In fact, what we lacked in consideration was that we never thought about the spiritual companionship of pets. This is something that most Chinese players have not considered. Why? Because the time a dog or a cat can really accompany you should be about 8 to 10 hours when you get home from work. But when you are not at home, it feels empty and it will have separation anxiety. But have Chinese pet owners ever thought about this problem? Never thought about it. In the UK, there was a pet magazine. I happened to see this in the magazine, which gave me a great inspiration. Someone developed a product to have visual interaction with pets. The pet can see you and hear your voice. This is not for the purpose of monitoring, but a way for pets to relieve their separation anxiety. For example, if your dog is left at home, and you find that he has messed up the house after you go home, he is not doing intentionally, he is simply playing. It is actually a kind of emotional venting.
He can't find ways to spend energy.
Yes, think about it from another perspective. For example, if you leave a child, a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old child, at home every day like this. During the day, he is alone at home. Think about what the consequences will be, right? So the reason I want to give this example is that if your knowledge is sufficient, it is relatively easy to select products.
Right. I think there are actually different types of money making. One is to make money from your cognition of a category. If you recognize it and discover something, you can make money. The second is that from a business scaling perspective, you make money from scaling, and you are particularly good at coordinate operations, then you make money from the business itself. But if you do not have the former and the latter advantage, you will not make any money.
Yes. In fact, I personally think that e-commerce, whether cross-border e-commerce or domestic e-commerce, actually makes money from information gaps. That is, you sell item from location A to B, whether it is domestic or overseas, then how big the information gap is depends on your ability to mine information. If you have scale effects, then you will have cost control or the richness of product types, and you can also form your own product system. As a moat, you have to come up with something to talk about as one of your advantages or a factor that can win, right? If you can't get anything out, then you're doomed.
The last question is, do you need to visit the destination country frequently when doing cross-border e-commerce? Because sometimes a year goes by very quickly. I think I've been abroad a lot. I feel like I can only go to Europe twice a year and North America once, and a few times Japan. It'll already be a very busy year. So how can you stay sharp and cutting edge? In addition to running yourself, what else can you do? Or can you only run by yourself?
My real feeling is that reading thousands of books is not as good as traveling thousands of miles. This is really true. Let me give you an example. I went to Japan and found that Japanese slippers were not divided into left and right feet. I felt very strange and asked why. They said that in case of earthquakes, it'll be easier to wear when escaping. You don't need to identify left and right feet. You can just put them on and run. It's for this purpose.
Oh, there is such a story.
Yes, because I went to the hotel and found that the slippers were never divided into left and right feet. I felt very weird. Why were there no left and right feet? Then I asked. This is also related to my profession. I saw some strange things and wanted to know why. Once I went to the Middle East, Dubai. When I first went there, I was misled by the stories on the internet. I thought that after getting off the plane, I could pick up gold from the ground. There would be luxury cars everywhere. In fact, it's not true. I was in Dubai for about 30 to 40 days in total. Of course, I also went to some neighboring countries. I found that people were driving SUVs on the streets, not Ferraris or Lamborghinis. Then I asked why. They said that Ferraris and Lamborghinis are a landscape of the city, and they're parked at a fixed place. For example, tourists take those pictures from the entrance of Atlantis hotels, etc. In fact, the most seen car models are still something like Toyota Prado, Nissan Patrol, etc. So my real experience is different from my previous cognition. After I arrived, I turned around and looked for product opportunities. I wanted to know what is the most expensive thing in that place. Fresh water is the most expensive. If you wonder whether a person's family is rich, you don't look at his car or house, but look at the green area of his home. If the green area is like the Amazon rainforest, he is 100% rich. The locals also told me that if you drive and hit a camel, it's actually no big deal. But if you hit a tree, it's very expensive. I asked why. He said that a tree probably costs several $1,000s or tens of thousands of dollars. I forgot the exact number, but it's an incredible price.
It's the money spent on water for so many years of growing.
Yes, this is what I meant. I observed it carefully and found that there was a drip irrigation device next to their tree, and fresh water dripped one by one. It dripped slowly, and I was studying it and realized, oh, fresh water is the most valuable thing there. I didn't feel it before, and I didn't have this feeling if I didn't go there. I didn't know it until I went there. Then what to research and develop as products there. People there will plant potatoes, tomatoes, and some green plants on the balcony or in their own homes. I also went to Dubai Mall to see the prices of vegetables and fruits. It was really expensive. That is not something that ordinary people can afford. Then I will go back and find some hot-selling agricultural products in the United States. For example, some watering equipment or some equipment for planting potatoes, which are hot-selling products in the United States, can be moved to the Middle East market for sales. This actually meets the needs of the destination country. As you just said, whether to go on a business trip depends on your time arrangement. But I personally think that going there is really rewarding and necessary. There is another thing I will say again, which is quite interesting. In Middle East, it's prohibited alcohol and sex or women. This is a religious issue. In fact, the more closed the country is, the more perverted it is. This is my personal experience. There are some colleagues around me who make adult toys. They have passed on some information to me, saying that this type of product sells very well in the Middle East market, and especially some of the popular products that were already accepted by the North American market. For example, BDSM or some toys have good prices and large demand in the Middle East market. This is also, for example, only after you really go to that place can you feel some of their religious culture. I personally like to drink a few glasses of wine, and after I got there, I stayed there for about 7 days without drinking and couldn't hold it anymore. I asked where I could drink, and I got the answer that in Dubai people can drink, and only in places in Dubai that have alcohol licenses. I was in Oman at the time, and then they took me to a hotel that specializes in receiving overseas guests. That hotel has a liquor license. After entering, it was dark, just like the ballrooms in China in the 1980s. A Filipino woman was singing and dancing on the stage, and I was there. This was the only way to have a nightlife that I could find. Their nightlife was all about smoking hookah, and a bunch of men played some weird music in a small dark room. We Chinese won't like smoking hookah here. Anyway, I think it's better to go abroad and have a look. The world is really huge. You can find out some product needs and increase your knowledge.
I heard from my friend before that in the UAE, they all go to a bar without a window to drink. Everything is very hidden.
For Middle Eastern people, they sometimes bring wine because they live in some countries around Dubai in the UAE. If they bring wine, they just pour out the Coke, then put the wine in Coke bottle and carry it. They all do it this way. It's hard to see a real wine bottle. Anyway, the first impression Dubai gave me was that it was really hot. I was in Dubai for long, and I didn't want to get off the car to take pictures. Well, when we arrived at the Burj Al Arab, the driver asked me to get off the car and take a photo. I said, forget about it. I saw many Chinese aunties taking photos there. They were typical tourists from tour groups. It was too hot. I couldn't stand it.
Besides, there was no so-called city walk in this place. It was not only hot, but also there were no streets in the city. It was very postmodern, I think.
Well, when it comes to the heat, I found some product needs. I only felt that it was possible after I went there. For example, after their car was exposed to the sun, the driver had to go first and start the car. He would notify us to come after about 15 minutes. Otherwise, normal people couldn't bear the heat. Some cars were high-end. They could be started remotely and the air conditioner would start automatically. But if there is no such function, have you ever considered using ventilated seats or cooling spray? After I asked them, they said they had never seen such a thing. I also found it incredible. I don't think that they don't know that such a thing exists, right? Then I went to 1688 in China and looked around. I found that if this product is being moved to the Middle East market in large quantities, its customer price is good and the demand is actually very good. So these are all discovered from daily life. Some of their needs are some products already encountered in real life.
Finally, because the recent U.S. election is very popular, many citizens on the internet said that Trump's bullet clothes have become popular. I would like to ask, are all of his products produced in Yiwu? Or does he now have some local supply chains that can achieve fast production?
Well, Yiwu is too slow now, and therefore sellers have moved all the machines to the United States. Because many Chinese have overseas warehouses in the United States, and they put a few of these printers in the warehouse to directly print clothes, so they respond very quickly. I remember that time it was 3 hours later, 3 or 4 hours later, the actual sweatshirts and t-shirts were already on the shelves in shopping malls and supermarkets, so Yiwu definitely cannot achieve such a response time. In the future, if you want to have such a reaction speed and be able to enjoy the dividends of such traffic, it must be local production and processing. But all of these are done by Chinese. Then, by the way, let me talk about a topic here. Many people will ask if it is considered infringement if I print the portrait of the US president on the product. This is a question so many people ask. Many people want to do it, but they dare not do it. Then let me answer this question. The US president actually belongs to an administrative unit. This is a position. His image is not a personal asset. So if he thinks that his portrait has been infringed and his reputation has been damaged. For example, people will make his portrait into toilet brushes, toilet paper, and red wine bottle holders. In fact, this is insulting in nature. In theory, he can sue you for infringement. But he must sue you on his own behalf as a regular person, and he will bear the litigation costs himself. So why hasn't this happened? It's reasonable. He could not be serious with you for such things considering the time. Another thing is that there are too many stores linked to this case, too many. If he goes through them one by one,
The cost will be too high.
yes, the time cost is too high, so he won't do this. So in the second half of the year, if there are sellers who are interested in doing it, they can actually do it at their own risk. According to the experience every 4 years before, I have never heard of any American president coming out and suing any seller. This has never happened, so it is expected that this will not happen in 2024, so everyone can do it.
This feels like if I were an author not well known. Sometimes see some of my pirated books, I don't really go to defend my rights. Because sometimes we feel that the readers have spent money to buy this pirated books. Although they're reluctant to spend money on the genuine books, at least he still recognizes me and admit me as the author. Unless the amount of pirated book is huge. Generally speaking, if a book is not even pirated, you may feel that your career as an author is a failure.
Yes, I agree with this point of view because my videos are often pirated. I don't defend my rights. I think it doesn't matter as long as they don't tamper with my content. If the content is tampered, I will file a complaint with the platform. Well, if he copied it original, I will not defend my rights. I think this is very good. I have the same idea as you. At least he still recognizes you. You are a capable person and your traffic is valuable, right? If you are not valuable, he won't waste his time to copy it. I personally think so.
Well, then we had a very pleasant chat today and gained a lot. I believe there are many details and many concrete points in this. Whether you do Amazon or cross-border e-commerce, I think they are very helpful. So we look forward to the next return. We will talk about it in a few days. Maybe because everyone has to prepare for the US promotion recently, Agon's time is relatively free after that. Then we will have a summary of the year later. If he's free before, we can also make predictions in advance. If you have any questions, you can also leave us a message in the comment area. It is better to pose your questions more concretely.
Yes.
I am most afraid of people asking me these questions. What opportunities do you think there are now? This question is particularly difficult to answer, you know? I hope at least tell me what industry the question is about, right?
Yes, I am also afraid of encountering this question too. It is too general, so I can't give a specific answer.
So this episode ends here. If you are particularly interested in cross-border, you can also follow Agon's account Agon talks about cross-border. This episode ends here.